Welcome to Mystic Revolution. Susana and I are really glad you're here. And this is the finale of season 3, Conscious Creation. And what a great season. I hope y'all are enjoying it. I think this is great fun. So let's meditate. Here we go. Noticing what you're hearing. Noticing the sounds in your room, the sounds outside your room. Noticing the sounds inside your own body, your own self-talk. Notice it. And let's let all these sounds help us be here now with our body. Let's rest the attention in the center of the head, behind the third eye, behind and up, behind the eyes and up. And all the way back. It can feel really far back into the center, above the ears, between the ears and above. Good. And let's rest our attention there like a candle flame, as we notice how our bodies are supported and connected to the earth, and our attention is sitting in the center of the head. The last 2 episodes, we talked a lot about attention and how important it is to focus it, and how useful it is to build attention, and how healing it is to direct it. And so let's just practice resting our attention in the center of the head and just rest and let go and rest. Like a candle flame, or like you're sitting in a beach chair somewhere beautiful or whatever. And rest your eyes. You can't see back there. We very often put we direct our eyes where our attention goes, but can't look backwards from those physical eyes. So just rest your eyes and breathe. All right, and let's enjoy the center of the head. If you want to stay in meditation, awesome. If you want to move around, that's great. And hey, Susana.
Hi. Woo.
So in the finale, hooray! What a great idea to talk about creation and community.
Yeah, well, so much of what we talk about here, right, is about tending to ourselves from the inside out. And as we've discussed, when you do that, right, there is a ripple effect, right? You tend to your inside out, and then that ripples out to the people around you and to the larger the community, and I mean, to the world, I truly believe. And, sometimes we are in co-creation with other people. Let's just say a lot of times we are, right?
Yeah.
Creating the right scenario in our family lives at home,
Yeah.
creating something in community, creating something on the job. And, having worked in the corporate world for a while and doing this work, it can be a challenge to maintain that more conscious eye or spiritual eye.
Yes.
or whatever when you're working on sort of the nuts and bolts of something. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. How
It's
can
wonderful.
You let it transcend, and then what that can mean for community. So
yeah, and in the big picture for me, it's like my current view of what's going on around here from a spiritual perspective, what I see, not just not theory, is just how much we're all together collaborating on a certain level of reality to create the world that we have.
yes.
And so, in the really big picture, we're in this momentum of creating this world as it is. And we can consciously continue that, or we can consciously shift that, the direction, the vectors, and the momentum if we choose to.
Yeah, I think that's really important because, I do believe that what you focus on, we talked about focus and intention before, but what you focus on, right, you get more of.
Oh, yeah.
And so when we are working in community, what are we cultivating together? What are we cultivating and focusing on together? And, in groups, there's a lot of problem solving, right? Groups get together to solve a problem, which is amazing. And focusing on the problem is helpful at first, right?
Yes.
We gotta, right, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. This needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed, whatever. Like, you've been doing this wrong, we've got whatever it is. And we got to validate, right? There's a problem to be fixed. But and this kind of gets to what you're talking about, like we are, where we're focusing on is creating some of what's going on in the bigger world, or at least the vibration of it, right? Like at certain point, it needs to shift into, okay, what's the vision? Like, what are we aspiring to?
Yes.
Like, let's direct our energy now towards the actual creation rather than the destruction. And this is a cycle. Things need to be broken down in order to be reinvented or built up. I think having that awareness in community when you're creating is really important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to put two images together that I notice a lot. And I really have trouble with the amount of resistance that's going on. I mean, there's tremendous resistance from so many quarters, and
Yeah.
some of it is owned and, resist, and some of it isn't owned, but it's still causing a lot of mayhem. And I like the way you're framing. It's like some stuff we need destruction as part of the creation cycle. And then I'll put together the picture, which I'm sure I've talked about here, but I'll put it here about like breaking through the board. So so the question is like, okay, there's so many levels by which resist doesn't work because it just persists. It adds isometrics to the system, right? But so what do we want? And that's usually a harder question than what we don't want. Well, I know I don't want to do this and I don't like that, right? But what do I want is a very challenging question for me and lots of people that I know. But that's like what's beyond the board. So like, oh, I want something juicy, whatever it is. And then here's the board. And that's like the stuff we're not enjoying. But let's not focus on that, because if we try to hit that, we just hurt our hand and it doesn't break, and it just makes things worse. There's a lot of resistance making things worse around here from my perspective. But if we actually go for like the peace on earth, or the whatever it is that we want, whatever it is, some yummy thing over here, if we actually go for that, the board gets broken on the way. We don't have to focus on it. The board gets destructed on the way, in the destruction construction cycle, creation cycle. The destruction gets done if we're on our way to build a cathedral. The outhouse gets torn down, right? But we don't want to focus on the outhouse. Ugh. Don't want to get stuck in there, right?
Yeah.
I'm using an illustration Michael always talks about, like, how much attention do you want to put on things? Are you building an outhouse, or are you building a cathedral? Because if you're building an outhouse, you don't want to spend 100 years doing it. Right. So on the way to building the cathedral, the outhouses get knocked down, and that's just that. What do you notice about that?
Well, I think having that vision of where you're going is really important, because I've noticed, and I've been guilty of it too, right? Like the destruction part, I'm not going to say it's easy, but sometimes it's a lot easier, because like you're already in a situation that needs help, right? So let's tear it down. Let's tear it down. Out of that, finding the vision that is going to like punch through the board can be harder. And I think that's a lot of times what happens when we want to create something new in community. We want to create a new way of living in this community, in our cities, in the world. What's going to happen after it all gets teared down, doesn't get the precision and the clarity that perhaps it deserves. And so when we're on the other side, or when the ashes have settled, okay, what do we do next?
Right.
And, have we actually set the vision for change where we actually want it?
Yeah.
I mean, is this just a little bit better? Like, what are we shooting for? And, obviously we're working with other people, we're working in the material world, right? There is some semblance of like what's realistic, how much things cost, like what are people capable of doing? All those things need to be considered. But that's part of the cycle, and putting conscious creative energy towards that part is what we're talking about. And going back to how we kind of started this conversation, how we've talked a lot about our own inner work, like creating from or working from the inside out, and how so much of the garbage, the rubble, right, it gets blown out of the way as we are doing that. So like if we can kind of take that model and put it into the community world. I mean, what do you see about that?
Well, what comes to mind when you're talking is this distinction that Simon Sinek is bringing more to the forefront with his book, The Infinite Game. Like the whole idea, like, are we playing a finite game in which, all right, well, I want to build, I'm going to let the outhouse die, but I'm going to build just a little house. It's just like that can get done in, a month or a year, somewhere between there. It's like it's very finite, and it's nice to be able to handle that. But then, what does the community do then? What do we collaborate on then? It's like whereas if we set the goal at housing for everyone, and along the way we build a lot of houses and tear a lot of stuff down, like we never get there. We just keep we build that muscle and momentum and juiciness, and we get everybody going, and there's no end. It's always more wonderful stuff happening. So it's just something to note, like, where are we putting the goalpost?
Yeah, where are we putting the goalpost, and what do we want I'm just going to say legacy of our creation to be, because you're talking about infinite. And if we're creating something in community, I mean, it could be, a wonderful performance, right? A musical performance, or it could be housing for everyone in the city. And both of those things have lasting value, right? The performance can be remembered. The experience that each person has can impact their lives. The recording can be heard for years and years, or whatever, right? And so when we kind of put that longevity in the mix, I think it makes a difference. We aren't just necessarily creating for right here, right now, or the next couple of years, right? This can have some lasting value.
Yes.
Like our kids could enjoy it, our grandkids could enjoy it, their grandkids could enjoy it, or it would be a foundation for something, more. Or yeah.
So we spent a lot of time talking about like the big picture and like what the vision is for however many. I do want to say, I'll say right now, it's just such a joy. I mean, you and I are in a couple communities together, and what a joy that is to, in this case, collaborate with you and I and Rusty and now Nikki, like to, and the other things that Retro Studio is doing. Like, it's just this really fun game that makes it so much easier and so much more playful. It's not like this is not horrible to do, right? It's like we're meaning to make a difference in the world, but it's not terrible. And there's something to be said about having cohorts, having people to play with on the way to what we want to create, not just being alone with it.
Yeah. And when you have cohorts, when you have community, I mean, obviously the energy of things can amplify. And right, each person brings a different perspective, a different set of talents, a different set of skills and experiences to the table. And we were talking about this before we started recording today, about the value of the shared vision I'm not saying it's easy to get the shared vision, but the value of the shared vision, and then each person taking ownership, right, for their role in creating that vision.
Mm-hmm.
And then like flexibility in that, like
Mm-hmm.
allowing this within ourselves and allowing with each other. And that's really the same practice
Yeah.
that we take when working with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's it just can get a little bit stickier sometimes with a lot of different opinions and
Yeah.
emotions, and you know
Right.
um levels of focus and whatnot. So how do we hone that? How do we work with all of that and dial it in, do you think? Like when we're trying to create something, with that lasting value.
I think what came to mind when you were talking is that when we do it ourselves or with just healers who are helping us or whatever, it's there's so much that's transferable to the community, but what's added in the community is so much learning opportunity of bouncing
Mhm.
off all the other people. And it's like basically the picture I got is it's exponential depending on
Mhm.
how many people are involved, that we have so many mirrors, we have so many places to trip, we have so many opportunities to get over ourselves and really validate their perspective as well as our own, et cetera, et cetera. um, I think that's really helpful, and it requires that much more inner work. That's always our answer: more energy work, more inner work, um, to be able to dance more comfortably on one side. So that's getting rid of the sticks, like where we trip,
Yeah.
and then the carrot is, I think it really helps to be able to ring a bell and say, this is what we're about. Like this is what we're about, and people are like, oh, that's what I'm about. You know, I'm
Yeah.
about, changing the world in this way. I'm about serving in this way. I'm about, you know, whatever, creating great theater, whatever it is. Like I'm all in. Like that's my thing. And like I think that's the carrot that both attracts the community, besides, being fun and stuff. Attracts the community, but also helps us collaborate with less BS, because the focus then is on the goal, not fighting each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I guess it's time for us to take a break. So that
Yeah,
seems like
this
a
is a
good
good
time to
time.
take a break. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hey friends, Susana and I want to remind you that we offer a Mystic Revolution meditation. It's the first Tuesdays at 4:30 Pacific. Please come as our guest. You can see our website for the link. And thank you for playing with us.
Raise your vibration and energize your life with specialized Fibonacci tuning forks that deepen meditations and empower self-healing. Get your vibrational sound tools for personal enhancement at energybodytuners.com.
Hello, welcome back to Mystic Revolution. And we're in the final little bit of our conscious creation season. And Susana, we're talking about creating community. Such great stuff so far. What else do you want to say?
The idea of shared vision, right? Shared pictures of what were shared values.
Mhm.
Obviously, that goes a long way, and that gets back to our topic of a few sessions series back of focus and intention, right? When this is a little bit like when you write a mission statement or a value statement, and it's
Mhm.
actually possible to write in those things that have a consciousness perspective, um,
Yes.
or a spiritual perspective, depending on the group that you're with. Um,
Hmm.
you know, a highest and best good perspective, and it that sort of sets the temperature for how you're operating, and so that
Right.
you're creating out of of that, right? Everything you make, every plan, that blueprint, whatever gets created out of that, which is essentially magic, the conscious communications, clarity of words, right?
Yes. Yes. It's very inspirational, and it sets everyone running in a particular direction instead of all over the place. And some organizations, they make it and they forget it, and other organizations really use it as a bell that they're ringing to help people stay on track.
Yeah. And, people can say, well, this is happening at my work, or, but it can be framed in a way. I mean, this is energy. I mean, I will use the word magic, because where we create from makes a difference. You can create out of anything. But what you really want, right? When you set the stage in the right way, that hones your focus.
Yes.
And the ringing the bell. Okay, everybody, remember, are we still here? are we on track here? Right? Let's come back. Let's circle and get back in the space of that we set for creation. Now, I know you had something to say about circles.
Yeah. And first I'll say, what you just said reminded me of, I think it was episode 33, where you started out talking about the wizard and the wand. But can we expand it? Can we bring the power of the group in alignment with that? And what you're saying, the vision statement with it, just staying focused and taking that, the will, and really, like, this is where we're going and this is how we're getting there. And I think that's just a very helpful picture to keep going with. And that's some of what leadership helps with. It's also helps, some of what being an active community member is, of like remembering what we're here for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this conscious leadership is a whole other topic that we really love, but a conscious leader helps set the stage for that. On a daily basis. And conscious creators, right, create from that, that vision, from that space. Yeah.
I have to say on that part, that the Tao Te Ching says the best leader, they talk about a few different kinds of leaders, and then it says, but the best leader, when the job is done, the people say, we did it ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about the leader.
No.
The people being empowered to do it themselves. That's really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I honestly think, I mean, that's what most people want right now, is the ability and the power and the space to be able to say that, right? Like, I created this. I'm not answering to anyone. I'm doing it like collaboratively. And we can start doing this in the places that we are.
Yes.
Like where we
and we are doing this.
And we are doing
lots of us are.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let's validate.
Yeah, for sure.
And we can be like, hopefully this is just like validating many of us who are doing that and saying, oh, let's do it more. Let's really ring the bell and let's really notice. And can I switch to back to the power of the group, power of the circle? So there's two big things about the power of the circle that I want to bring up. And one is pretty usual to notice, which is, it's two or more thing, that there's more power and energy, there's more focus, there's more everything. I have to say, in the old days before I had tools, I really, really appreciated the power of doing circle work or together with people, because I could access the flow of energy more than enough than I needed. And I couldn't, it was hit and miss otherwise, honestly. Whereas in whoever it was in circle, there was plenty of energy to drift like an eagle on the energy. And so that's something to really validate, that, like, even if I have an individual project or a group project, like, can we join forces with others we can ride the river instead of like carrying our canoes.
Sometimes you got to carry a canoe, but if you have other people to help, that's nice, right?
Right. And if you get the river to go up, the dam opens and the river flows better, then you can actually just go. So anyway, that's the first thing. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, I mean, I just on a basic level, when you're in a group of people that are grounding their energy, whoa, we're all like, it happens like that, right? And so the same is true in aspirational energy, or in even physical energy, right? I would, when I used to run a lot, I would much rather go running with a group of people than by myself, because there was the energy of it. Yeah. So
yeah. And matching. There's so much good stuff about working with
we
others.
haven't really even talked about matching energy, right? And how you can be uplifted by other people and matching them, or taken down. But when we understand how energy works, we can make that discernment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the other thing I wanted to say about two or more, the whole working with others thing, is that if we really are in agreement about the world we're creating, like, we talked about it in 33 about the world we're creating individually, but if we're really aligned and in agreement about the new world that we're creating, like that energy power can help form that world and actually, at least for the people involved, create a new possibility that wasn't there before. It's just so much more powerful to use that lever, because we live in this shared reality. And so when a few of us are seeing what's new and possible from the same place, and inviting that into physical reality, it can be quite extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there have been circles and many people inviting. I mean, I can't think of the organization's name, but they did an energy experiment, or a consciousness experiment, where they had groups around the world simultaneously meditating around peace. And they had very specific ways to measure it. I mean, based upon crime rates, crimes at different times. I mean, all sorts of things that out of it, they were able to notice a difference, right, in the time that was being meditated, and even after that. And to your point, when people are joined together in like mind, in like intention, in like heart and vibration, it can make a difference. And I'm gonna have to look that up, because that was extraordinary. It'd be an interesting thing to drop in, because I mean, this isn't just airy fairy stuff talking, right? Yeah,
it was like science.
It was science. As are many, many things that are created in the world, even in the business world, right? There are these things. We're not saying that there isn't, but having some awareness of it means that you can intentionally infuse. You can intentionally do some of these things. Yeah.
Yes. And as we're headed toward close, I want to say a while ago now, I was listening to, I mentioned this before a couple of weeks ago, Carolyn Meese and I can do it, Clarissa Estes, whatever her name is, who wrote Running with the Wolves. They were chatting, and they were talking about how important it is to not just do energy work and become a reader, healer, teacher, but sewing that into the places that need it, not showing up being oh, here, I'm an energy worker, I'm here to help, just being the energy worker, being the healer, being the soul leader, and showing up in corporations, in volunteer organizations, in community stuff, just showing up. And I think this goes very well with this, creating community. It's I have a friend who's spending all his extra time besides little family and a lot of work at, helping kids in high school with the robotics program, right? He's just making cool shit happen for techie kids, and being a role model and making a difference, right? And he's not like an official anything, nobody's going to give him these special energy points, but that's where his passion is, and he's really helping. And like where we help, not that we should go out and work in a corporation and if we don't want to, but is that our path for part of our lives or whatever it is, or it isn't, nonprofit, whatever. They were saying it's just so important that basically one of the things I like to talk about is like, can mystics be everywhere? We're everyday modern mystics. Can we be everywhere just doing what humans do? And I think that changes us in the world.
Yeah, I think it does too. And we can. So, it's the practice of it, and bringing the practice and the provisions of it into whatever group we're working in.
Yes.
It's not about trying to convince anybody of anything or trying to do anything. It's just a lens to look through, perhaps some practices that can be translated into the language of the group. I mean, the idea of having a vision and a mission is nothing new, right? But how are we tending to that? And that even, I mean, I just know from experience, like in some of the most like places that you would never expect, right? The energy of that shows up, and it makes a huge difference. And so, and it reflects on the organization or the agency that this person or persons are in, and it really shifts things. So
it really does.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll talk more about this in upcoming seasons. But if you have any experiences in your community or ways that mysticism or your abilities of perception help something in your group, we'd love to hear about it. And with that, I will hand it off to Wendy for the last meditation of the season.
Hooray. Okay, and let's tune into our inner world. We already know how to sit in the center of the head and just let that candle flame flow, or just sit like you're sitting in a beach chair in your favorite place in the world and rest. And then let your body rest in the chair and breathe. And as you breathe, just notice in yourself that there is creative energy. Maybe you could see it as a color or a sparkle or a shape or whatever. Just notice in your own system there's creative energy, and ask that as you breathe to flow and dance all around your body, your space, letting that creative energy increase. Good. And let's ask some of that creative energy to flow up and through your shoulders, down your arms, and out your hands. So this creative energy flow is flowing through you out as you, whatever you're doing in the world, the flow of your own creative energy is flowing, making it easier to do art and play and create and make dinner and make the bed, whatever it is. Letting the creative energy do the work as you physically do the things. And let's ask that creative energy as it plays around in your space, wherever it is, to be washing away the blocks and the limits and the lies and the heaviness that might get in your way of playfully enjoying being a conscious creator in your world. Please enjoy doing that. And Susana and I will come back to everyday consciousness a little to say thank you so much for playing with us and being with us through this season.
Thank you,
Susana, for wonderful information the last few times. It's just been really great.
Well, it's great to work with you because you bring great information too. And so it's really a delight. So thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you to Rusty, our producer.
So awesome.
And
Okay.
we'll see you next season.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Thanks so much for playing with us. Please support Mystic Revolution by liking and sharing our show.
And sign up to get notified when new content is available.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Another creative art production by Retro Earth Studio.
Join us for our monthly Mystic Meditation on the first Tuesday of the month at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time.
Click on the link in the description to get more information and join the Mystic Revolution.
We look forward to seeing you then.